I want to start out with a story. A little story. Scientists, they always like to experiment and try new things out. So scientists set out to develop a fish that could live out of water. And so they selected a red herring, and they bred it, and they crossbred it, and they manipulated it, and they chromosomed it, and hormoned it, until they produced a fish that actually could live out of water. Now the project director was worried that although the fish could now live on dry land, he suspected that the fish still had a secret desire for water. And so he went to his staff and he said, re-educate it, change its very desires. So the team went to work redirecting its desires and its instincts. And the result was a fish that would rather die than get wet. So really proud of what they'd done, the scientists decided to take the fish on tour around the scientific conference circuit and to show it off. And at one of those conferences, a most dreaded thing happened. They were walking along the conference grounds and the fish fell out of the case that they were carrying it in, and it fell into this small lake on the grounds, and it immediately sank to the bottom of the lake, and its eyes and its gills clamped shut. It was afraid to move lest it would get wetter there at the bottom of the lake. And finally, it was there with the gills and the eyes clamped shut, kind of holding itself tight, dared not to breathe, but every instinct in that fish said, breathe, breathe you must. And so the fish breathed in a tentative gillful of water. And then its eyes bulged open, and the fins started to flicker, and it breathed again, and again, and then it began to wiggle with sheer delight, and then off it went, darted off swimming in its natural habitat. The fish had come home and rediscovered water. Rediscovered its home. Now, that's kind of an interesting, cute, weird story, but what's it got to do with anything? The first one who can give me an answer gets a donut. What's it got to do with anything? Well, it's with that same sort of exhilaration and wonder and joy and surprise that people discovering this teaching of the science of mind and spirit have taken to it like a fish takes to water. It resonates within. It rings true. Many of you have experienced that. You came in and you said, wow, this makes sense to me. I get it. I feel like I'm home. And so many have resonated with this teaching and felt that they have been welcomed home to a place where they take to water like that fish did. Something resonates that they've always known deep within themselves. And it's like, oh, finally, I can relax and be who I truly am. T.S. Eliot said that we shall not cease exploration. The end of all our exploring will be to arrive at the place we started and to know the place for the first time. That's what it's like coming home, resonating with a teaching that fills you up and surrounds you with something that feels right. Now, many of us, like that fish, have been conditioned and hypnotized into forgetting the power and the presence of spirit that is our natural beingness. And then when it shows up, we start to recognize it. Because the truth is that no amount of illusion or conditioning can destroy the instinct for truth that all of us have. It exists within each of us, and we recognize it when we see it, when we hear it, when we encounter it. From our series last month, we are in flight right now on our journey to transformation on Spirit Air. You bought the ticket, and you're in your seat, and off we go. And while it's good to have our head in the clouds, it's also a good idea to have our feet on the ground. And so this month is back to basics. It's about exploring the essence of the science of mind and spirit, the very heart and faith of our teaching. And so those of you who felt like there's something that you resonate with, but you need a little more clarity, you're going to get that this month. We're getting back to the basics of what we teach. And this week we start with the principle of the science of mind. We'll review some things and we'll take deeper this teaching that has propelled so many of us into new awarenesses and into powerful dimensions in our own lives. Our lives begin working and we go, wow, life is easier. It's unfolding in a way that feels good in ways that it maybe didn't before. So we'll reawaken our spiritual instincts, and we can transform our experience of life by doing so, by aligning ourselves with Spirit, aligning ourselves with tools and teachings and principles that help us to do that better, to become more of ourselves. Now, we can be plucked from our natural spiritual element of being, just like that fish was taught to not like water. We can be trained and conditioned with limiting and negative and false ideas. However, when we encounter truth, when we encounter a teaching that reminds us of the truth, reminds us of who we are, reminds us of the presence of Spirit within us and all around us, we resonate with it. Something shifts inside, and then things begin to shift outside in our outer experience of life. And we're back in the life-giving waters of truth and light and love, just like that fish got back in the water. Just like that fish, we begin to flow with the true power of the universe. You know, we discover our own true power when we recreate and empower and uplift our lives and other people's lives with the tools of this teaching. That, my friends, is true power. When we uplift not only ourselves, but we uplift each other. And I tell you, it's impossible to uplift another person or do something to change the world if we don't start with ourselves. It begins within, and then we're able to do more with others and for others. I tried doing it the old way. It didn't work. I didn't uplift anybody. In fact, I probably bummed people out. Bummed myself out, I know that. But when I got in alignment with the true spirit of who I am, when I got into alignment with Spirit itself, my life began to change. And as my life began to change, I became not only blessed, but a blessing to others. And that's true for all of us. You know, we've all tried to find power outside of ourselves at one time or another. We tried to find it through things or careers or relationships or influence or sometimes even by force. But all that brings is a temporary or a dubious result. It's not lasting and it's not that great. Our true power comes through our alignment with the power and the presence of Spirit, which is within us and all around us. The principles and the practices of the science of mind and spirit support us in becoming in alignment with that and in staying in alignment so that life does unfold in miraculous ways easily. Ernest Holmes is the founder of our teaching. He studied the great minds from ancient times all the way to the very present moment in his life. And he looked at the spiritual and wisdom teachings all over the world. And what he did was he synthesized it into a practical philosophy, faith, and way of life, which he describes as a correlation of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of religion applied to the needs and aspirations of humankind. So he took the whole enchilada and said, hey, let's put this together. Let's have everything that is available to us. Why do we have to just pick one? Just like the seating today. Pick what works for you. We've synthesized this into a whole that works for lots of people instead of saying, well, you have to pick one way to sit. You know, in fact, some of you that are sitting at a table, you might want to come up here at some point. I mean, you can shift around. It doesn't bother me. You know, be comfortable. Take the wholeness of life. Grab all the good you can get because it's there for us. And it's not greedy and it's not selfish because the more good we grab for ourselves, the more good we're able to give and share with others. So Ernest Holmes, philosophy, faith, and way of life. It's a philosophy in that it expands our understanding of our thought processes and also about the cosmos and our place in the cosmos. It's a faith because it teaches spiritual practices like catching Spirit's vision, doing meditation, being in prayer, being in service, giving and receiving of our time, talent, and treasure, witnessing each other as we move through the changes in our lives, celebration in community like what we're doing here today, so that we might all, each and all, experience greater peace, greater success, prosperity, health, and well-being of every nature. Do you know that the word wealth used to mean well-being? It wasn't just about money. I like that old definition of wealth. It was about well-being of every nature. That's what it is to be a wealthy person, and that's what this teaching and alignment with spirit can bring us. It's a way of life because we engage in spiritual living as a lifestyle. Not as a thing we do on Sundays, but as a lifestyle. Spiritual living. We live our values and we express the highest attributes of our truest self so that we can live positive and happy and productive lives, experiencing and expressing what we have been called to, expressing our unlimited potential, becoming a beneficent presence on the planet. We make a difference. We make a difference, and we create a world that works for everyone. It's possible. We think of ourselves as little too often. We are not little. We are magnificent, and we are powerful, and we are bigger than we imagine. Actually, the truth is we're as big as we can imagine, and getting bigger all the time, and more powerful, and more present, and more positive, and creating more possibility. The science of mind and spirit is an integration of new thought and ancient wisdom. That's what Ernest Holmes did for us. He looked at spiritual wisdom from all time and brought it into what was the future in those days, and the expectation is that we bring it further into the future because new things are happening, new discoveries are happening. And all of this is in harmony with the world's spiritual and wisdom traditions. We're not about exclusion or exclusivity, we're about inclusivity. Science of Mind and Spirit is an inclusive spirituality bridging cultures and nations and faiths. That's the possibility that has been gifted to us. Science of Mind is a practical application of mental and spiritual principles. It's a practical application. It's not something you just hear about or read about. It's like what Ken was just saying, conviction of the heart. It's about putting it into action in your own life and in the world. You know, our thinking and our feeling creates our belief and our consciousness, and our belief and our consciousness is the cause of our experience of reality. Thinking, our feeling, our consciousness, our belief. And it's through study and practice of the principles of this teaching that we can change our unconscious beliefs and create new conditions and new lives through conscious intentions and beliefs. Part of it's waking up, getting conscious. You know, we hear the tagline, change your thinking, change your life. You know, too often we subvert that, we turn it upside down. A friend of mine got me because I used to preach about this all the time, she got me a bumper sticker that says, change your thinking, change my life. It's not how it works. It's change your thinking, change your life. And by virtue of that, I can't help but be impacted in a positive way, right? Change your thinking, change your life. I want to read this to you, something that Ernest Holmes wrote in 1928. I mean, we're talking cutting edge here, 1928. Religious science is a psychological, metaphysical, mental, spiritual, idealistic, and practical. I love that he puts all of that in there. Psychological, metaphysical, mental, spiritual, idealistic, and practical. It is psychological as it deals with the operations of the human mind. Metaphysical as it shows the human mind to be an extension of the divine mind. Religious science is mental since it deals with the law of mind, the most subtle energy known. It is spiritual because it reveals a universal spirit inherent in all things. It is idealistic, teaching the greatest ideals ever perceived, and practical because it provides a way by which one may attain those ideals. There's a universal law of cause and effect, a direct relationship between God and man. There is but one mind in the universe, and all inquiry into truth is an inquiry into that one mind. Whew. How did he figure that out in 1928? I mean, come on, wow, that is revolutionary. You know, Science of Mind and Spirit is a spirit-centered, affirmative thinking, feeling, and living. And it opens us up to possibilities that are absolutely endless. The fundamental principle, now here it comes. Here's the fundamental principle of the science of mind and spirit. God is all there is. Simple. Not always easy for us to live from that premise. God is all there is, and that includes everything, everyone, all possibility, and therefore all of life is interconnected, one unified whole. God is all there is. There is one life, that life is God, and that life is my life now. That's the rest of the principle. God is all there is. There is one life, that life is God, and that life is my life now. Spirit, or source, is infinite love, infinite intelligence. It is the essence of all creation. One life, one presence, one spirit, birthing all of creation from itself. I'm going to ask you to repeat this principle with me. So, you ready? God is all there is.
God is all there is.
Okay, I would like you to say that with conviction of the heart. We're not leaving until you do that. Okay, you ready? God is all there is. Okay, next part. There is one life, that life is God, that life is my life now. There is one life, that life is God, that life is my life now. Now this one's a little harder. The infinite life of the one Spirit, the infinite life of the one Spirit is unfolding itself in, through, and as me. Is unfolding itself in, through, and as me. Okay, now we're going to do the whole thing because I want you to get this. Ready? God is all there is.
God is all there is.
There is one life, that life is God, that life is my life now.
There is one life, that life is God, that life is my life now.
The infinite life of the one Spirit,
The infinite life of one Spirit
is unfolding itself in and through and as me.
is unfolding itself in and through and as me.
All right. If you remember none of that except one thing, God is all there is. God is all there is. That changes the whole landscape of everything. If you only remember that, if you only repeat that when you're driving in traffic and you're ready to kill somebody, breathe. God is all there is. Oh, well, there's God that just cut me off on the freeway. But if God is all there is, then we're one. It kind of changes the feeling and the tone of things. God is all there is. So call it God, call it Spirit, call it Buddha, call it Allah, call it energy, call it love, call it universal intelligence. Spirit is transcendimmanent. That's a word I made up, by the way. Because God is both transcendent and immanent. Transcendimmanent, both beyond, all around, and within us. One life, one presence, one spirit, birthing all of creation from itself. We are co-creative with Spirit. With God, all things are possible. We've heard that before. With God, all things are possible because God is all there is. So with God, all things are possible when we collaborate and cooperate with the creative unfoldment of Spirit in and through and as us. We start with belief. Start with belief. Our beliefs either block or allow Spirit to work through us. Tim, you'll like this. It's kind of a Buddhist thing here. Suffering. Suffering comes from a sense of separation from our source or separation from our good. And it is a mistaken belief. It is a mistaken belief. Release those false limiting beliefs, those misconceptions, that old conditioning from your past, and we then move back into the abundant ocean of true spiritual nature. Then we get into that water like that fish and we dart off with delight. The best way that we can co-create with Spirit is through conscious affirmative beliefs. You know, belief is the marriage of our thoughts and our feeling. Remember point far. We program our thoughts and our feelings to empower our actions for great results that take us far. Thoughts, feelings create our beliefs, which cause our actions and create our experience of life. Clear thought, clear, powerful thought, plus a vivid, passionate inner feeling creates those beliefs and creates our outer experience. It is done unto you as you believe. That's how powerful your belief is. It manifests in your experience. Ernest Holmes says in the beginning of the textbook, in the Science of Mind textbook, he says that one day scientists and mystics will walk hand in hand to the same truth. And guess what? The quantum physicists are now proving what the mystics knew all along. Doesn't matter how you get there, just get there. I'll give you an example of that, the observer effect. This is how powerful we are. The observer effect says that everything is energy, and it's infinite, unformed possibility. And so there's this quantum wave of infinite possibility that's going along like this, just kind of doing nothing but going along like this. When we interact with that wave of quantum possibility, we literally pull down the wave, we collapse the wave into a particular experience. It doesn't happen until we interact with it. That's how powerful you are. That when you interact with that infinite possibility, you collapse it into the experience that you're intending and desiring. That's how powerful you are. Not only did the mystics tell us this, but now the quantum physicists are saying, yeah, we can prove it. And I invite you to prove it to yourself every day in your own life. Believe. Believe in the experience that you want to have. Collapse that wave of possibility and have the experience in your life. You game for that?
Yes.
All right. Who remembers Candid Camera? Remember that television show? Okay, so I want to, as we move to closing here, I want to tell you a little story that happened on one of the Candid Camera episodes. The state troopers had put themselves right at the border, and they were stopping people at the Delaware border. You just came from Delaware. I'm lucky you got through. Because the state troopers were stopping people at the Delaware border, and they were telling people, well, Delaware is closed. And people were like, what? Well, is Pennsylvania open? And they said, yeah. And they said, okay. And they turned around and went to Pennsylvania. So it is done unto you as you believe. If you believe that there's a block and you cannot get into Delaware, you're going to have to turn around and go to Pennsylvania. So my question to you is, where is Delaware closed in your life? Where in your life have you closed the border? What limitation, what doubt, what fear, what rejection are you believing in and have you bought into? What are you allowing to stop you from being the magnificence that you are? What are you allowing? You know, sometimes we do feel like a fish out of water. I know I have from time to time. And it happens when we've forgotten the truth of who we truly are. So don't let those limiting beliefs, don't let those false beliefs stop you in your tracks from being who you truly are and unfolding the magnificence that only you can bring to this planet. The Science of Mind and Spirit is about remembering who we have come here to be and being that and allowing all of our doingness to arise out of who we be. I'm an English major, so I can butcher the language. What greater good? What greater good? What greater experience are you willing to accept for your own life and for the life of this spiritual community? I want you to think about that. And no small answers. Get big, get bold. If it doesn't scare you a little, it's not big enough, it's not bold enough. It should scare you a little and intrigue you a lot and call you to it. So claim your good. Say yes. Tim told us that last month. Say yes. Say yes. The universe then will conspire for your good to make that yes happen. It's already so. It's already done right now in the mind of spirit. It's simply waiting for us to wake up and open our arms and embrace it and accept it and take it on. So believe it, embrace it, embody it with a clear conscious thought and a vivid, passionate inner feeling. Affirm it to anchor it in your belief, and then open to receive the blessings of good. They're right there, right there, right there. Claim it, believe it, be it. So blessings. Blessings on your journey of living the essence of the science of mind and spirit. And may you begin right here this week by believing and embodying the principle that God is all there is. God is all there is. And so it is.